Si je m'épanche sur toi, c'est...
This week we're going to be doing Butterick 6031 and we're going to make this really cute little slip. I'm making a small size this week. Normally I do plus size, but this is for someone, so I'm going to be making it in a specific size. Such a cute little old-fashioned looking traditional slip. This calls for a stretch lace, and I think it is in, let me read real quick, 1.5 inch wide. You can fudge it a little bit, but you definitely need some stretch lace. So stretch lace it'll look like a lace, but it's nice and stretchy like this. Make everything fit nicely, and it will move with the body, easy to pull on and off. I bought tricot knit, plain old-fashioned traditional tricot knit. It comes usually around 72 or 102 inches wide. I'm just going to show you how wide this is. This is folded. Look at how wide that is folded. So we can get a lot of project. 1 yard, think of how many pair of underwear you get out of 1 yard of this, or slips or whatever. So I'm gonna be able to get a lot out of this piece that I bought. It's not super expensive for the amount of fabric you get. It is lightweight, traditional slip fabric, what you would consider slip fabric, slightly sheer. Perfect though if you are wearing it as a slip. Also great for a nightgown, that sort of thing. So I'm going to be using this in this nice soft baby blue. And then I went on the hunt for my stretch lace, and Etsy ended up being the best place to get it from. I also went ahead and ordered little slip straps pre-made. So you can make these yourself. You can buy the little slides and make these easily, but I mean, let's face it, talk about making your project even easier. And these are made with an elastic. You could make them with ribbon, but the thing with everything being slightly stretchy is you can pull it on easily, easy to adjust. So I bought some really pretty little pale blue slip slides. This is from seller Mary Supplies on Etsy. And there are a lot of great suppliers on Etsy. I just think Etsy is a great place to be getting this sort of thing. So this is the elastic lace that I'm going to be using today, the stretch lace. Isn't that pretty? It has a slight scallop to it. Nice and stretchy. So this will be going, all the places you see lace on that pattern is where I will be using this. But I'm going to show you, I went ahead and ordered some others just because she had a great supply of things. So I got this nice sort of rosy blush pink, and I got a wider, look at how pretty that is. Just a traditional ivory, but boy, can I use that a lot. So I got that, and I went ahead and got an extra set of slip straps and some ivory slip straps, and she included a couple samples for me. So here is a great, an elastic, and can you see how it's kind of sheer in the middle? That's where it could be a fold over if you need it to, like this. So nice elastic, and then here's another little sample that she sent of one of her other stretch laces. So that's what we're working on today. It's pretty straightforward as far as cutting it out. There's a lot of fabric, so I'm not going to fold it in half, and you've seen me do this before, and cut down the middle. I'm going to fold back only what I need for this project so that I maintain the integrity of the length of fabric. So when I lay it out, I'll just show you how that looks really quick, and then we'll be back at the sewing machine. If you have only a sewing machine, you just need to have a zigzag. So if you can set your machine for a small little zigzag, you can make this entire project. If you have a serger, I'm going to be doing part serger, part zigzagging. The lace is not put on with the serger, the lace is put on at the sewing machine. So we're going to be back and forth between both machines, but you don't need a serger in order to make this project. All right, to the cutting table. Okay, so here I am laid out. It's just a back, a front, and the cup. And the cup comes in sizes, so that you can see this one's a C cup that I've cut out. And if you want to make this a little more secure, a little more less see-through, cut a double layer of cups. So you can put one on top of the other, and it'll just make it a little more protective when you're wearing it. But I just want to show you with the tricot, see all this lined up here? I'm gonna let it go. This is all that's left. I have 2 yards of this, so 2 yards this direction. But look at this way. I've got lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of fabric left over. Love tricot. Step 1 is to simply make our darts, and this is it. The larger the cup size, the deeper the dart. So if you have an A cup, you won't have as deep a dart as this C cup does. So that's the wrong side, this is the right side. And then it says, the directions are trim close to stitching. So this is, I'm gonna show you on the back side of mine. This one I've already trimmed. So I cut 4 cup pieces, 2 right, 2 left, because I am going to line the cups. Machine up just for a regular straight stitch because we're starting with the darts. And before I started this project, I went ahead and changed my needle, so I have a brand new needle. I went ahead and oiled my machine in the places I need to, ran a few pieces of scrap fabric through there to make sure there wasn't any oil coming out from the oiling process. I also hung up my pattern picture up there to keep me inspired. And if you have something like this, a corkboard or something in your sewing space, it's really nice to be able to put your directions right up behind the machine, and you can just glance up at them whenever you need to. So there's a few little tips. We're going to go ahead and just put in this dart. If you've never done a dart before, I'll put in the iCard my little darts video on how to get beautiful little darts. And I did go ahead and cut out an extra set of cups, so I am going to have sort of a lined cup area in this slip. All right, the directions say after you make your dart, so here's our little dart, that you want to trim your seam allowance close. So I'm going to show you how much seam allowance I trimmed off. It's very close. It's a little more than 1/8 of an inch. It's between the 1/8 and the 1/4 inch. And then it tells you to press that excess to one side and top stitch it. So this is how it looks top stitched. Now in the directions, it's a little hard to tell, but it looks like they pressed the excess of the dart towards the center front. But traditional dart rules are darts flow towards the back. So you want to press, if this is the front of the shirt, you want to press that dart excess or push it, lay it, pin it to the side seam. So that's what I did, and then I top stitched it. It looks puckery, but it's really not. It's because I'm laying flat as a nice curved piece. You can see there's no puckers in that when it's on the body, when it's held right. If you are lining your cups like I did, you're just going to lay them on top of each other, wrong sides together, so that you end up with the smooth part of the dart against the body and one on the outside. Now if you're lining it, it's really easy to end up with 2 lefts or 2 rights because they're identical now on both sides. If you're not lining it, just moving on to step 3, which is pinning down our lace and sewing it on. So I'm going to pin it down real quick and I'll show you the next step. If you're not lining it, we're moving on to step 3. If you are lining it, we're moving on to step 3. We're just going to treat the 2 cups together as one, and we're going to now take our pretty lace and we're going to lay it along we're going to take this edge that's less scalloped and it's going to lay right along our raw edge here. And then up at the point, we're going to have to make a decision about where we want to fold this over, because you can't just lay this flat. There's quite a dramatic point there. It's kind of like a little dart in the lace. So what I've done is I've looked at my lace to see where I want that little dart to be, and I'm actually putting it right between these 2 pieces of lace. So it's this. See how that makes it look prettier. Of course, I've just got it pinned. It's not stitched down yet, but it'll make sense when I go to stitch it. So now that I've made that decision, I've actually moved over a little bit, so I'm going to have a little bit hanging off down here. We're going to zigzag, teeny tiny zigzag along this edge. We're not going to do the top edge at all, so you're going to pin it down. So this is how it looks pinned on. And you can see I've got this edge perfect. And then we're just going to do our tiny zigzag. Now on my machine, I've set it for a 2 in width and a 1.15 in length. It's really tiny, and you could definitely go a little larger. It's up to you. You don't want a giant zigzag. You want it to be pretty small, and we're going to come back and trim away when we're done. So I'm going to pin this for both of my cups. This is the right side. This is the wrong side. It looks the same. I have a double layer, you can see, but you don't have to. That's your choice. You want to make sure this is where I've pinned out that little bit of excess, and you can see how it makes my scallop look. All right, we're ready to stitch. All right, we're stitching at the sewing machine, a teeny tiny zigzag, and you want to make sure you keep everything taut without stretching. This kind of stuff kind of likes to push down in the machine. You can see I'm just gently guiding it, and I'm going slow. If you've got to turn, sink your needle, Give it a little turn, and that way you don't end up with some funky little spots. The nice thing is, let's see, I'll show you from behind. It's very hard to see the stitching in this. Look at that. It's practically invisible. Pull out this pin so I can flip to the back. That's what the back side looks like. Looks great. Okay, going to keep going. When I get up here, I'm going to definitely sink my needle to pivot and come around. When I trim away, I'll come back and top stitch this little area that's sort of like a dart where I had to fold out some of the fullness of the lace. All right, back for step 4 in just a second. All right, here we are stitched on. This is what it looks like from the wrong side. And now we're going to take our scissors and we're going to trim away this excess up here, both layers, since I'm doing a double layer. Carefully cut right next to our stitching line. And then it says transfer the dot. And what that dot is where you're going to be sewing your strap eventually. And it's really just this point up here. It's this point, whoop, that point. So we want to make sure that you put a little pin in it or something. And you can see, let me push this away. This is how it looks where I folded out the excess. And it looks fine, actually, but I think I'm going to flatten that out and maybe just do a tiny stitch or two to make it completely flat. So I'm going to go ahead and do my trimming away. And if you've seen me do this before, my personal choice is to trim away with these. These are applique scissors, and they are just a nice, safe way of doing it. You put the duck bill between the layers, and it makes it less likely for you to accidentally cut something you don't want to. You can just be really careful, though, with whatever scissors you have, and usually do it from the back side, but you have to watch you don't accidentally clip your lace and trim that away. All right, this is how it looks as you trim it away. So step 4 had us trim away, so you can see that now I don't have any fabric directly behind that elastic. And step 5 says using 1/8 inch wide elastic, and you can see this is obviously not 1/8 inch wide, this is 1/4 inch wide elastic. And they have a little guide for you to cut it for your size. You're going to cut that, and we're going to pin that in on the wrong side behind the lace. You want to make sure it doesn't show. They say about 1/4 inch down from your scalloped edge. Now I'm using 1/4 inch plush elastic. This side of the elastic is sort of felt feeling. It's really soft and plush. This side is just plain elastic, and it has a little picot edge. This is a lingerie elastic, so I'm substituting their regular 1/8 inch elastic for a little bit wider but better elastic, one that feels better against the skin. And I have it in an ivory, and if I turn this over, notice that it's not very noticeable on the back side. See, it kind of just doesn't show at all. Now, it would be better if I had it in the same matching blue or in a really good skin tone, you know, whoever's wearing this close to their skin tone. So ivory is a good second best for me. If you have a really dark skin tone, you might want to do something different. But for this project, like if you're doing a black slip, use black elastic. Or a dark brown slip, something like that, you might use a darker elastic. You can get plush elastic in colors, however. And so that's what we're doing. So here I am. It's shorter. It's not as long as the piece. Let me show you on this one. Can you see how it pulls up a little bit? It's a little bit shorter. So I've pinned my 3 areas, and then I come back and pin in between. So when I sew this, I'm going to turn it over and sew it on this side. We're stitching through our elastic with our little zigzag, and I will have to stretch it ever so slightly. And this is just so that it cups up against the body, and it just fits a little bit better. I can tell you I've made tons of slips, and this is the first time I've ever had one have me put elastic in this area of the slip, but I'm going to follow their directions and do it just like they say, so we're going to do that. All right, I'll show you what it looks like after I'm through stitching. Okay, here they are already stitched, and you can see it's very hard to see my zigzag. Now I did enlarge the zigzag just a little bit for the elastic, so if you flip it over you can see that's what the zigzag looks like on the elastic, and it does make it nice and firm, and it does cup it just a tiny bit against the body. It gives it some nice stability. So the next step is to sew the 2 cups to each other here at the center front. So we're going to do that next. It's number 7. And what they have us do, they actually don't even zigzag it. They just have you straight stitch it 2 times, then fold it over and top stitch over it. Excuse me. You can definitely do it that way. That's the directions. So you would lay them on top of each other, right sides together. I believe this is 5/8 inch seam allowance. What I'm going to do though is serge this, fold it over, and top stitch it. Here is just the top part, the cups section completed to this point. So here you can see the inside. Now I lined mine so there's no raw edge here. And I serged them together. So there's the serging, and then I folded over. I folded to one side and top stitched it down. I have a little piece of fuzz stuck in it. All right, so now we're ready to move on. And on the directions, it has us start on the trim at the top of this is the cami, but it's the same for the slip. We're going to do the lace on the top front of the slip right here and trim it away so that we can put the slip front onto the cups. Now the slip front also has this little V. It's a little hard to see because I've traced my pattern off, but there's a V which I'm going to cut out real quick. Now you can cut the V on either side, but the pattern shows it on the left. So I'm just opening this up. I'm going to lay my pattern on here, side seam to side seam, so that I have my little V on the left side, and I'm going to cut out of only one side. You don't want to cut through both layers, so that's why I haven't cut it out yet. Otherwise, you would end up with 2 little V's in the front, which you could do and could be super cute. So we're going to line up our lace. This is the front bodice right along the top edge, and we're doing the same thing where the scallop just touches along that raw edge. We will again trim this away, and then we're going to top stitch this to our cup front. So it's sort of like appliqued together. So there won't be an actual seam. It's going to look so pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply this next. So here's the front lace applied to the top edge, and now I'm just trimming away the excess. All right, so I'm pinned down, and what we're really doing, I'm going to show you from the wrong side, is we're just overlapping about 1/4 inch lace to the cups portion like this. So there's actually, if I flip it over, you can kind of see there's space there. And then once that's stitched on, depends on the type of lace you have. Because mine is scalloped, I'm actually going to trim away a little bit of this cup. And then this will be a slightly flesh colored behind there when you're wearing it, which will look really pretty and elegant. So now this is ready to just get appliqued on. So we're just going to zigzag this. I'm just going to put my hand behind so you can see how that looks with the sheerness of the lace. All right, we're ready to start on the back. And so for the back, we're going to kind of do the same thing. We're going to add the lace along the back edge first. So pretty much what we just did here, we're going to do again for the back. All right, so I have the lace on the back, and I've trimmed away the seam allowance or the excess, so you can see that's how it looks right now. And now I'm pinning on my piece of elastic. The elastic for this size is approximately 2 inches shorter, so it's a little bit smaller, which is on purpose to pull in the back and make it fit a little better. So I've marked out the center of my slip, the center of my elastic. I've matched everything up so you can see they don't match perfectly. I have to stretch just a little tiny bit when I'm sewing it, but I'm going to sew this on next. And when I sew it, I always sew right side up so you can feel the elastic through there when you're stitching, but it doesn't really show at all, which I'm pretty pleased about. So I'm going to sew this on, and again, don't forget to widen your zigzag just a little bit for this elastic part, and then we're ready to put our front to our back. Okay, we're already nearly done. We're pinning together at the side seam now, so you can see I've got the back of my slip and the front of my slip. And the way this works is it just fits together. You can see the front here, this little seam, the front matches up perfectly with the back once you get the little cups on. So we're just pinning that together, and I'm serging this, so I'm going to serge this down. There's 5/8 inch seam allowance, so I will be cutting off a little bit. If you're doing this at your sewing machine, just zigzag down on your 5/8 inch line, and we're ready to apply hem lace. It's time to add the straps. And I bought pre-made straps. You can see they're adjustable. This is what they look like. And here's the neat thing about straps. You can make it so the adjustment goes in the front or the back. That's up to you. If you bought bras, you've had them probably come both ways. So you can choose how you want to do it. I'm going to go ahead and put it with the adjustment in the front, I think, just because of ease of use. It's just easier to adjust it if it's in the front. And the other thing that I did on my slip, once I've done my side seam, so here's the side seam that I've sewn up here at the top where they joined, I just pulled all the seam allowance to the back, towards the back, and I even grabbed my little extra serging thread and tucked it inside there, and I just zigzagged it down a little bit. Now from the right side you don't see anything. This is what it looks like on the wrong side. And again, the seam allowances are pushed towards the back side, and that just makes it a little more secure and make sure that that seam doesn't flip up. So I'm going to put on my straps, and then I'll show you how to pin on your lace for the hem. In the final stretch, here's my front of my slip. I have it pinned, just started pinning from the side seam. I'm going to start right at this side seam here, and I'm going to stitch along the top of this scallop, mitering my corners. So I'm going to stitch around this miter. This will get trimmed away, and when it does, I will stitch down this little miter to make it stay. And then this corner here, now miters work great if you have a 90-degree angle. This is not a 90-degree angle. You can still do a turn and pin. The example they give is sort of folded into a triangle at the top. Because of that, but they used a plainer lace. This one has more dramatic scallop, and the scallop is different from one side to the other. So what I've done instead is to end the top of my slit with one of these little flowers. I've tucked under the next side so that I have this decorative top on mine. So I'm going to come up, stitch around this, and I probably will stitch around this flower quite a bit, come back down so that when I trim array, everything's nice and secure. Then back down to another mitered corner. And from here, it's just straight pinning. There's no more corners or anything to worry about, all the way back around till I get to this side seam. So I'm going to stitch it on, and I'll show you how that looks. All right, I've stitched all the way around, and I'm back to where I started. Here's where I started stitching. Here's where I finished at the side seam. I've gone ahead and trimmed away just a little bit right there. I'm going to trim all of it, but I want to come right now, and I'm just going to do a little zigzag to hold that down. And then I'm going to, as I trim away, I'm going to come back and zigzag these little mitered corners too to make them nice and neat. And we will have a finished slip. All finished. Here it is on the mannequin. You can see how sheer the tricot is, where the elastic shows through, and how it isn't sheer up here at the cup because I did the double layer. There's our slit. And the back. Very pretty pattern. The directions are good. Super fun.